intuitive performance coach. Yay! We are here live. We are live. Welcome to the Get Up Girl podcast. I am your host, your gal, Joanna Vargas. And today we're on all the places. If you're listening on your favorite podcast app, you could always go over and just watch this video as well on my YouTube channel or, gosh, all the places like Twitch, and at Facebook. I have Samantha Bell today. Y'all are in for something cool because Samantha and I met at Lindsay Schwartz. Shout out to Lindsay's Powerhouse Women's event in Arizona in, August of 2022 of this year, if you're listening in real time. And we sat next to each other. And then so like, hey, you want to be on my podcast? And we have made it happen. Samantha, welcome to the Get Up Girl.
Yay! Thank you.
I'm really excited to jump in because, and I want to get this correct, you are an intuitive performance coach for creatives and for entrepreneurs. So tell us all what that is, and then how the heck did you get started with that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, thank you so much for having me. This is so exciting. And yes, so I'm a performance coach, an intuitive performance coach, meaning that I both use my intuition and I tap into your intuition for creatives and entrepreneurs. I am a performer myself in the creative space. So I act and I sing and I work behind the scenes in film and television commercials, all of that. And so that's where my creatives really come in. And I started working with them first as one and realized that the imposter syndrome, right, is big, the fear of failure, fear of success, all of that. And then I really got into the entrepreneurial space, the online marketing space, and realized that it was all the same kind of thing and just for a different reason. And so it just kind of happened that both areas were started to be my people. And so I got started in this by going through my own little come to Jesus healing moment. In 2017, I left a long-term relationship that was in Japan with 2 suitcases and $2,000. I moved across the world. I'm from North Carolina, but I moved across the country to Arizona and restarted my life and had a lot of healing to do. And I have a degree in music therapy. So talking and processing has always been, or processing through talking has always been my thing. So talk therapy hasn't really been super effective for me because I just do that normally. And so I was always kind of interested in alternative therapies, and because therapy is great, y'all. And so I, for myself, started to become exposed to like hypnotherapy and energy work. And that I had a hypnotherapy session that in one session was years of what I had been trying to figure out with a talk therapist. And I was like, holy crap, that's it. I'm hooked. And so I went through and I got the opportunity to be certified myself. So I am a certified hypnotherapist, NLP practitioner, tapping technician, and time technician. So I do generational work and clearing. And so that all was happening while I was still performing. And I've been a coach for actors and models since 2017 as well. As far as that kind of happened, people just started asking me and I started leading classes. And so then as I'm healing, I'm starting to bring it in and go, wait, but what about this part and this part? And so then I shifted from the skill set to the mindset. And that's really where I've sat, because I find that, of course, runs everything.
Absolutely. Samantha, what is a time technician? I am intrigued.
Yeah, time, it's capital TIME. And so it's an acronym, but it is the generational clearing. So I work on your timeline. And so it's both your timeline and others, it's generationally, because and the other part that I love about what I do is that I understand that some people can just feel into something like I do. And if they feel it's right, they're ready and they're going and they're like, oh, it makes sense. And then some people need to know the science behind it. So I really pride myself in knowing a lot of the science behind why these things not only happen, but how they happen and the proof there. And so generational clearing is something that's really cool because it's in nature and in science, they have identified 7 generations back of patterns and things that are passed down. As people in the energy space generally feel, it goes much further back than that in your subconscious. However, it's cool that science is trying to catch up. And the flight of the butterfly is the most common example, because a butterfly's travel, its journey, lasts 3 generations. So there is not a single butterfly that has made it from point A to point B. And it's like, how then can they continue if not through generational pass down?
Wow. Because I work with, a few healers of myself and work on past family things. It is so incredibly helpful and really I can't say the word.
Generational.
No, generative. That's the word I'm looking for. that too, though, Samantha. But such a contribution when, gosh, kind of like constellation work. Have you done anything of that nature?
I have I have some astrologers and people that I talk to. I am not versed in that, but I do find it very fascinating.
Yes, that has been very helpful for me to then see where I can make choices in my life right now from constellation work as well. Gosh, and you're a hypnotherapist?
I
Okay, let's
am.
talk a little bit more about this. I've done many, many hypnotherapy sessions. Oh, such a contribution. And what has been the biggest thing that has helped you by becoming a hypnotherapist?
Oh my gosh. I have healed, and so timeline and is my favorite, and
Oh,
it's a form of hypnosis. It's interactive, so it's doesn't have to be as deep as a hypnosis session can go. With hypnosis, though, it really, I feel like, exposed to me from my very first one the possibility. I think that's the biggest thing. So hypnosis for me has been the door to all of my energetic healing, because that's the first modality that I was exposed to that really had an impact on me. And I started with loosening up, people pleasing, with loosening up. I did a lot of loosening with the hypnotherapy before timeline really kind of coming back around to clear. I use time a lot to clear. And so with hypnosis for me, oh my gosh, the biggest thing, I cleared and or loosened, depending on what we're talking about. I had this thing with dogs, like a fear, and I had
Samantha, I have the same thing. It has cleared significantly, not 100%, but yeah. Wow. Okay, I'm
yeah.
curious. Keep going.
Well, yeah. So the people pleasing, and but the biggest thing for me is that it opened the door and really exposed me to the possibility and the power that I had, that then unleashed everything else.
Yes. Yes. It's just like the Wizard of Oz. And at the end, when she says, "You have always known," or "You can always go back home," whatever that line is. Yes, I know. I know what it is for Joanna. I can choose. There is nothing greater than I. Like I am. Yes. And then once I started getting that, I don't have it yet, but I'm getting it. Wow. Because for how many years did I believe it was outside of me? I was small, I'm pathetic, and everything's greater than I am. And then until I started to get that, Joanna, you know stuff. And wow, what a shift. So grateful for that. Samantha, somebody listening that's going, cool, okay, I'm interested. What is one thing that they can start with, or they're intrigued? Like, what would you tell them?
Absolutely. One of my So I'm a speaker and a guest healer for things, and a topic that comes up a lot that I speak on is our ego. I have I've been told, a very different view than others. And for me, your ego is not something that is bad. Your fear is not a liar. Your fear is actually telling you your absolute truth in the moment. And so, because what's happening is the programs that are running that you have established within your brain and body, those are going to run no matter what. And all that's happening is when there's fear, when there's imposter syndrome, when there's all of these things that we are perceiving as negative, it is going against an internal belief that we have within one of those programs. And so the first thing that I really encourage people to do is to actually start to listen to yourself, not as truth, but as a recording of the current truth that is within you that can be shifted. So, for instance, listening to the actual words that are being said or feelings or however it's presenting to you. So, for instance, like where you said, I am small, I'm pathetic, like the words that are being used, journal, write them down. And because nothing has meaning until we assign it meaning. And so what happens is, as these programs are constructed through living and experiencing life, meaning is then assigned to things. And what we can do is that these programs play out without us knowing, and it's just the daily life. And so the way that we can become aware of what those programs are is just to listen, because we will tell, your body will tell you, your ego will tell you, your fear will tell you exactly what's running. It's very clear. And so they won't like me. I'll lose my job. All of the things, there isn't one answer, fear equals this, because it's different for everybody. So once you figure out what your thing is, fear is not a liar. Fear is telling you exactly what it is that you have an insecurity about because you believe it to be true. Otherwise, it wouldn't resonate. And so once you can listen and say, oh, interesting. Oh, okay, got it. And observe what's happening and write it down, then you can do something about it.
So let's say I observe the fear, I write it down, I could do something about it. What can then I did? What is the I could do something about it? It's like, okay, then what's next? What's the next step?
Yes. So words are powerful. They have meaning. Everything is energy. That's just a scientific fact. It's not really debatable, but feel free if you need to. So because everything is energy and our words have a frequency and are measurable, which is why when you're high vibe, high vibration, high frequency, it's like a literal scientific measurement. And so what'll happen is our words that we use, why we're being observant and writing them down, are defining our reality, not just describing it. So words don't just describe, they define. And so once you realize the story that you have been telling yourself, because it is true in your space right now, you can then, through this written story, write a new one. And this isn't just about affirmations of lying to yourself, because that will then kick in your what's called your critical faculty, which is the part of your subconscious that's kind of like the troll bridge, right? He's not going to let anything by that it does not resolve and feel good with the beliefs that you have. So if you just pound, it is true. If you pound an affirmation you don't actually believe to be true into your head, eventually you'll start to believe it. I don't feel like I don't lead my little sparks into battling themselves like that hard, but anyway, so it's rewriting a story that could also be true. So for instance, procrastination. And I had one that it was like, I suffer from procrastination for me personally. So I suffer from procrastination. Like I can never get my stuff done early. Like I always wait till the last minute. And what I made that to mean was that I suffer from procrastination. And then I actually had someone bring up to me, they said, well, then why do you do it? And I said, well, because I haven't been punished. All my stuff I get good grades on, like everything ends up being fine when I put it out there. Like I'm not punished for this procrastination. And they said, well, then why do you say you're suffering from it? And it was like realizing that I put this meaning that my procrastination was bad because somebody told me it was. And then I realized what I'm doing is I thrive under pressure. And so I was just creating pressure for myself so that I could thrive, which I did. And so once I realized that my procrastination wasn't a weakness, it was a strength, I then changed it from procrastination to efficiency. And I changed it from the word of procrastination being to put off to efficiency, to do in a small amount of time. That week it was supposed to take me to do this assignment, I then could create pride, not in a negative way, but pride in my ability to do it in a day. And so those kinds of shifts is where things start to change without anything having to change.
Samantha. Ding, ding, ding. Oh my gosh. I bring this up often because I am great when I work quickly under the gun, so to speak. Maybe I don't want to use those words, but you get what I'm saying. And I was told for many, many years that what's wrong with you? Why do you wait to the last minute? And then I made myself to be wrong and I bought the wrongness of me. And one day I got that, like, wow, I actually have a superpower. I'm
Yeah.
like, I can do it 5 minutes before where it takes somebody else 8 hours. I could do it in 5 minutes and it's awesome. And I'm like, wow, I actually thrive. I do better. And Samantha, I have choice to do it early as well. And I do both. I check in. Hey, Joanna, would you like to do it early today or would you like to do it? And some things now I do early, where before it was like an FU energy. I'm going to wait to the last minute just to prove that I'm right and to prove, like everything that you said earlier. And then now it's choice. And it's not
Yeah.
wrong to wait to the last minute. And I've had clients as well say, I suffer from procrastination. I'm like, cool. Does that work for you? Like, choose and check in every time. It doesn't mean that I always wait to the last minute, Samantha. It's a choice. Wow. Everybody listening right now, I hope you truly got that if you are a last minute person and it's ease for you. Because I also was made to feel like guilty that, like,
Yes.
how did you just get an A or how did you whatever? And I've been working on it for 2 weeks. So then I felt bad, right? I
Yes.
should have taken longer as well. Wow. Okay. I would love to go back to the dog thing because that was another thing that I made myself wrong. You know, in this reality, dogs are amazing. Most people love dogs. To be afraid of dogs is not the norm, right? Like, I got the what's wrong with you. I had many men leave me because I'd be crying. I was afraid of dogs and I could not explain what it was. And I did hypnotherapy, Samantha, exactly for this. And it changed. Like, people see me now, they're like, oh my gosh, you're actually okay with a dog in the room. I'm like, I know, but I've already forgot because I've worked on it for so long. They only remember me from 10 years ago until now. And I have forgotten the difference. I mean, I would run. I would do anything in my power to get away from that dog because of the, like, terror. I am not sure what it was. I'm like, I didn't need to define it. There was just something undescribable. So tell us about your journey, because even if it's not somebody with dogs that's listening or watching, maybe it's something else that's indescribable. What tell us about what happened with you for that.
Yeah, this is so mine. I've not been afraid of dogs my whole life. I have a Great Dane now, and he's a rescue, and when he was a puppy, I took him to the dog park, and there was a dog, a big mastiff, that I turned around. I don't know what happened, but he and my little baby puppy, who of course was a big puppy because Danes don't, they come out bigger than other dogs.
Yeah.
They got into this. They sounded so ugly. No one got hurt. No, it sounded like that dog was going to kill my dog and my dog was going to try to kill that dog. And I had to physically grab my dog by the hind legs, and pull him out, like by his hips and pull him out. And they're, and the owners are screaming at me and I'm like, and I don't know what happened. And like, in that moment, I was afraid of my dog. Like, I didn't know what happened. And it was so frustrating because we're trying to get him trained and he had a lot of anxiety and a lot of, from being a rescue. And I would get frustrated because we would go out and I would get anxious if I saw another dog or if I did something, because I didn't want him to like have a reaction. And then he could feel my like upsettedness and we would like feed each other. And I would just get so angry because I'd be like, I can't make it stop.
Mhm.
Like, and this is this loop. And so I used tapping as well to help move some of the energy. But for the hypnosis, it was because, like I said, assigning meaning, and breath work can be helpful too, because, and I'll get into the hypnosis part, but for me, it was really eye-opening when because people will say you carry trauma in your body, right? Your body remembers. And I knew that to be true, but I didn't physically understand how trauma's carried in your body until I learned. And the answer is that the receptors, right? You have neurotransmitters in your brain, but you have neurotransmitters all over your body, like with all your cells. And they are transmitting neurologically to your brain. And so what happens is when you have a reaction, those neurotransmitters in your brain and your body are all talking about the same thing. And when you only do the mind work, those neurotransmitters can do something different, but then your body, that's how you can still get touched in a way that triggers your body to respond, which will then remind your mind what's going on. And that's where you can have this kind of like what's going on scenario, because the trauma is trapped in your body through those neurotransmitters, which breath work, tapping, like the body, mind body connection is where that can be helped. But anyway, so with the dog, with that mind body connection, I did some breath work and tapping for the body part. And then for the mind, it was about going back to that moment through my subconscious. So again, through the hypnosis of time and redefining the moment and allowing it to mean something else for my body and my safety and my existence, so that I could let go and I could have it as just a memory instead of a defining moment.
Wow. Very different than mine, but also kind of similar to what I did. Yeah, I made it so solid of what dogs meant to me. And now, after the hypnosis, I can choose. And there are some dogs where my body will tell me, I don't like that dog. But most of the dogs, I would say 9 out of 10, I'm like, cool. I'm so I mean, I'm petting them. I would have never probably ever chosen that in the past. But there's only a few that I'm like, no, thank you. But other than that, it's choice now. It's not a story of every single dog is this way.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's so important to have the realization and the of what the other side is, because I find that too, is that someone had a fear of flying, which hypnosis is really good for, and she did hypnosis with another hypnotherapist, and she was talking to me about it, and she said, yeah, I'm about 80%, she goes, because I still get really anxious when there's turbulence. And I just kind of smiled to myself, and I'm like, everybody gets anxious when there's turbulence. Like, nobody wants to fall out of a plane. Like, if the plane on heavy turbulence and you're like floating out of your seat, like nobody's like, this is great. I love this. And except the kids, it's really cute because they're like, wait. But even if you're not, terrified or to the point of whatever, it's not a comfortable feeling because your body is experiencing just like the feeling of turbulence. And so it was just, but I smiled because for her, 100% would be like sipping a daiquiri while turbulence is happening. Like, everything's fine. And it's like, that's not the other side of a phobia of flying. And so just like, right, when you look at some dogs and you're not a fan of them, that is because your body still knows things, just like you look at some people and you're not a fan of them.
Yes.
That doesn't, it's just like allowing for a realistic other side. I find that a lot of times when people have phobias or like so far to one side, they feel like the other option is nothing, and it's not generally the case.
Yes, Samantha. Now I have awareness and my body can let me know if I do not like that dog. Yes. What's also interesting, I did hypnotherapy for flying as well because I was one of those where I hated turbulence. I was in a flight that was so horrible that I didn't want to go back up in the air. Right. And where I chose the story in that session was, oh, it's just air. It's just wind. It's just wind. Are you afraid of wind, Joanna? No. And I kept going through like, what are you afraid of? And I came down to, oh, I didn't want to die alone. And then I thought, wait, I'm not alone. There's people all around me. There's 250 people on this plane. I'm not alone. Oh, so what it came down to is when I do pass, when I do leave my body, I would like people that I know around me. That's all it had to do. It had nothing to do with the plane, nothing to do with turbulence. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'm not alone. I'm really not afraid of dying. I just want the people around me that I love. That was it. So I'm like, okay, cool. Well, then next time, Joanna, maybe you choose to fly with somebody that you love and know. I mean, but it did help. Now, there are moments, of course, when I don't like the turbulence, like you said, and I move through it and I'm like, oh, it's just wind. It's just wind. Okay, it's just wind. That's all it is. It's just bumps in the road. And I changed that story and it has helped. Like you said, it's like 80% now, still the 20%, but much better and able to go back into the air rather than not flying again. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I totally feel when people get frustrated with, it's a choice, and they get frustrated with these words of like, well, if I could choose different, I would.
Yeah.
And ironically, that's also a story that right there. And so it's that line of, I
Yeah.
totally get it. I totally
Yeah.
understand when people hear me or others speak about choosing something and they don't feel like they have a choice. But that, even in that moment, that frustration, listen to the words you're using.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're like, no, I don't have a choice, and you're frustrated because I'm telling you you do, then ding, 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 the answer is the program that is running is you don't have a choice. And you'll know that because once you realize it, you can also look at where else it's playing in your life, because you bring you to everything. So if you don't have a choice is what is playing out for you, you can look at every area and where are you reacting as if you don't have a choice in everything. And it doesn't make it wrong. It just makes it the program that's running. And then you get to choose, is this a program that I would like to keep serving me? Or is it a program that I would like to shift? And that's where the choice comes from. It isn't making yourself wrong, shaming yourself, guilting yourself, deciding that, well, then I can't be happy or right or whatever. That isn't where the choice comes in. The choice comes into, oh, I see, I'm cold. I can either be cold or I can put on a jacket. It doesn't define me whether I have a jacket or not. It's just a choice.
We always have choice. The ugly C word, choice. I like to say that. People go, the C word, what is that? Choice. Oh, yeah. Always have choice. And even though we think that we have an A and B choice, there's always infinite choice. Infinite choice. And I'm just going to say something like really funny, but to kind of give just kind of some tactics to it. So let's say I'm in the air in that airplane and I say, well, I don't have a choice. I'm in the air, so I have to deal with it. Well, I have a bazillion choices. I can open up the emergency thing and I could fly out. I mean, gosh, I could punch the person next to me. You get what I'm saying? I'm saying funny things, but there's so many choices that we have, but we think the only choice is either stay in my seat or freak out, and that's it. So choose one or the other. And we live in this dual world where it's A and B. And what if it's infinite? What if we have infinite choice? And going back to what we were saying earlier, Samantha, about that, we know. How do we bridge the woo and the do? It's like, I know that I always have choice and it's infinite. It's always changing. It's infinite. Right now, I can hang up on this Zoom call or I could change the light. I mean, I could do a bazillion different things, and knowing, you know what? I choose to sit here and I'm going to talk to Samantha, So I just kind of do
Yes.
those funny things like, oh, yes, it's infinite, infinite, infinite.
I do that with I like to bring awareness to people that I feel like are kind or something. And this happens to me. It's so interesting because somebody will say something, and I'll say, hey, I really appreciate the way that you held the door for me or something. And they're like, and I've had multiple people say, well, what else would I do? Or, well, like that's just because I'm not a bad person. And which of course is their belief. If you listen, they're telling me what the belief is, but I'm like, you always have a choice. Just like, just like what you said, you could not. And that's the option. As they said, what else could I do? I said, well, you could not. And you chose to be kind in this moment. You chose to do these things. And you chose that because it supports a belief of yours, which I'm glad that belief gives what I perceive to be kindness. But either way, it's still a choice, whether you're consciously or subconsciously making it. Just like you're saying, we have over 2 million bits of information, of sensory coming in from all of our senses at once at any given time. That is then shifted and sorted, and your body and brain will delegate, distort, or delete. Sorry, it'll generalize, distort, or delete all of that information. And then from that, it will get broken into like 129 bits. And then that will be broken into 7 plus or minus 2. So between 5 and 9 bits that you can consciously focus on at one point at any time. And so that distort, generalize, or delete, those things your brain is going to do is going to be based off of the patterns and the subconscious things that you have filters in your body. And so that's why you can be in a restaurant and there's a lot of noise happening, and all of a sudden you hear your name from 2 tables over, and immediately you turn. How could you hear your name if you weren't able to hear every word of that conversation the whole time? But because your name is the only piece that your body has a filter and a file and a program for that's important to me, it deleted it from coming into your conscious space because it doesn't need any of those words. They're not important to it. So that's just a delete example. A generalize would be when you're driving down the road, there are cars. You don't see every make and model of every car that drives by you. But yet if you focused, you could. But it's just cars or streetlights. Like you don't see every individual streetlight as an individual streetlight. Like they just happen. Your body is generalizing. When you walk by, you don't see every blade of grass. It's just grass. There's just leaves on the trees. And so that's generalizing. And then the distortion comes in when we assign meaning. So, right, if I say you want to go get pizza, if I say it to you when you're hungry, the answer might be different than if I say it to you at 2 a.m., than if it's different than if I say it to you, and so it'll distort based on a bunch of factors, the meaning that's coming in with it. So because that is how we perceive everything, that is the other reason why doing these kinds of modalities can change everything without changing anything, is because out of all those 2 million bits of information, there's things that are going to serve the path that you're wanting to be on and things that are not. And you just got to tune into the ones that are by switching the programs within so that you aren't deleting things that are happening.
Samantha, what'd you say? It's changing everything without changing anything. Is that what you said? Oh my God,
Yeah.
I love that. That's a t-shirt. That might be the title of the show. I love that.
Yeah.
Samantha, this has been great. If anybody's listening and would love to work with you, they're like, oh my gosh, this sounds really cool. How do they get a hold of you and how can they work with you?
Yeah. So Instagram is probably the best place, which is at its _Samantha Bell with an extra E like the princess, Belle. And I actually only work in a one-on-one capacity. So I do, besides speaking and guest healing on retreats, where if that's something you want to talk about, we can definitely do. I read tarot and do intuitive readings with people, depending on how comfortable they are in our coaching. But then for me personally, I do one-on-ones, and I have various kind of packages, but overall, because these things can happen so quickly, as you know, I like to work longer term with people to really be able to lean into who they are as a person so that we can build, and we go from, okay, cool, what I came in for was more clients or more confidence or more, I want to bash imposter syndrome or whatever it is. That's all great. But then once we do that and we reprogram, all of a sudden that 2 million bits of information is coming in and you're perceiving it differently. And then it turns into, well, how do I even do this? Like, what do I do? Like, now that isn't, I'm not locked in this victim box or whatever that box was, like, I don't even know how to function free and able to fly without fear and like to see a dog. Like, my body doesn't know what to do if not freak out. Yeah. And so that's where I like to work with people to do the quick work of the reprogramming and then really sit in the space of beautiful, like, let's fly, let's carve a path and like function from this new place. Wow, which is where the woo and the do get bridged. So we do the woo and then we bridge into let's do now.
Yes. Gosh, I've never thought of it that way, because how many of us have done that? We've done the work, we shift, and then we go back. Yeah. Wow. Huh. Thank you, Samantha, so much for being here. Samantha Bell, like the princess, the extra E. Love it. Everybody follow Samantha on Instagram, and it's Samantha Bell, right?
That's me. Yeah.
It's Samantha Bell. I love that. And follow her on Instagram. Send her a DM. Let her know what your takeaway was from today's show. I know Samantha would love to hear from you. Thank you for listening here to the Get Up Girl podcast, where We do everything in our power to show you that you know what's up. Love you all and have a great day. Thanks, Samantha. We'll